Come on, Chipmunk. You can do it. You can do it, Eric.
Yeah, for me, I'm
And there
gonna
we
sign
go.
off. So good night.
Oh, okay.
Good night.
Good night.
I didn't talk too
See ya.
much.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm glad you joined us. Do have a good evening there, Tao.
Yeah, you too, guys. Bye.
Night, Tao.
Yeah.
Good night.
You know, whenever you guys say, like, go on, or you guys say, go on, little chipmunk. You know how the little dogs, when they stand up on their hind legs, their front legs just they move them up and down really fast.
Yeah.
Is it wrong? I was envisioning Eric doing that as a
Okay.
chipmunk.
Okay. Well, you know
He
what I
does
think
that
should.
mentally.
You know what I think should have come before that, Cap. You know what I think should have come before that, Cap.
What?
This. Welcome back, everybody. We are now continuing our stream.
I didn't really realize. Wow, that's well, we're live.
We may have
Yeah.
the wrong voice chat, or we may have the wrong side chat, by the way.
Actually, let us see.
Somebody provided a different link.
Interesting. Let's make sure we still got it. I got welcome
Oh,
back.
no, Havoc sees us. We're good.
Yep.
Yeah.
It should pick up because I didn't change the thing. But anyway, all right. Let's see. Okay. On that note, let us continue with the foolishness, shall we? Let's wake up
Yes.
Eric. Let's wake up Eric and see if he's got some valuable information for us. Here we go.
Flood. They are forced to say it wasn't global. What do they do with the verses that declare the flood covered all the high hills and more by 15 cubits?
Ignore them.
Well, they just rationalize that, hey.
Oh, we have a drink call. Cap.
Yeah.
I believe it's you.
Yeah. Because most historians and scientists agree that because it happens in the Iraqi, where the story originates, it's in the Iraqi what plain? Oh yeah, flood plain. It's called that for a damn good reason.
It's also amazing how many different mythologies or cultures have worldwide flood stories
Oh yeah.
that are actually from local floods.
Uh-huh.
Indeed.
And separated
it's
by hundreds and sometimes thousands of years.
Indeed.
Oh, right. But what I was getting at is most of the time, the worldwide, quote unquote, flood stories are from local floods that were large enough to be considered the world as they knew it.
Yeah, their
Yeah,
whole
it was
world.
everywhere we could see. It was wet, man.
Indeed.
Yeah. And oddly enough, the people who do the whole worldwide flood bit, those all seem to happen near water or water sources.
Or
Well,
places that come in as
actually,
well.
it's even more specific than that. Your Chinese floods, they had an irrigation system that broke up. And in fact, they found the archaeological data, which, by the way, seems to predate the age of the Earth. But anyway, we don't want to bother about that.
Yeah.
And according to young Earth creationism. But there's a conspicuous no flood story bunch, and that is Egypt, because there the flood was a good thing. It was nice. It brought the soil down from the south, and it made everything green and lush. And so if the Nile fails to flood, that's when they freak out.
Yeah.
And no flood.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they have more myths about droughts than floods, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Okay.
Yeah, and the whole worldwide flood thing, the other thing I'll point out is that, no one in Egypt seemed to recall that flood happening. They seem to live on right through their dynasties with no break in the record.
Well,
They're
you see
building
the
the pyramids.
Chinese, Chinese Indus Valley civilization, anybody from Mesoamerica, a lot of these places could actually read already, or had some sort of a language, some sort of record keeping language. The
Mhm.
Chinese could just freaking read.
Mhm.
The Indus Valley, they didn't notice.
I can clear up the Egyptians for you if you want. Hovin the Elder just addressed this week.
Okay.
The Great Pyramid was built before the flood, and it was built because it was supposed to be a sign of God that would stand through time. So if we ask Hovin the Elder, possibly all the Egyptians that were around just hid in that and survived the flood. So
Oh,
that's why they
Yeah.
didn't actually notice the flood, because they were safe
oh, it's
inside their
way
pyramids.
Except
worse
there's
than
a
that.
problem with that.
Oh.
So,
There's several problems
Sai,
with that. I mean,
can you note this for the wiki, please?
Indeed.
Well, then you got this problem here of that the Hebrews were supposed to be enslaved, the enslaved Hebrews, which never happened that we can prove historically. And from there, they were the ones that built the Great Pyramid, but they weren't enslaved until, Exodus. So we got a little timeline problem here.
well, they
No, no,
weren't enslaved ever if you look at the
he didn't
archaeological
say.
evidence.
Over talking.
I have to interject
There's
because
actually records of people being paid attendance logs, everything. You could actually beg off of work for a hangover.
Oh, and
Period.
there was one guy, I think it was Mycerinus, the one that built the pyramid after Khufu,
Mhm.
that apparently his donkey was sick, and so he was let time off to go back home to attend to the sick donkey.
I see. Hey,
I
Peter
have to
has
interject
Peter has buzzed. Go
because
ahead.
Hoving the Elder didn't say that the Hebrews built the Great Pyramid, so that leaves the Hebrews out of this one.
Well,
No,
let me put in my giant problem with this.
Okay.
You see, there is Egyptian history continuity. So we know there are hieroglyphs, there are written histories, there are kings lists, there are styles of architecture, there are styles of costumes, there's religions, there are gods. We can read all of that shit for thousands of years back, and it straddles the period when the flood is. Now, if the pyramids are built before the flood by the Egyptians writing in Egyptian hieroglyphs, then the sons of Noah, who breed like rabbits after the flood and
yeah.
repopulate Egypt, bringing an entirely new culture in that survived the flood, and they suddenly adopt all the same written language and style and architecture and gods of the Egyptians.
Which would
What's
never
wrong with this
happen.
picture?
Does
It
seem
would.
improbable, doesn't it?
But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason I
Well,
So,
no, it's
so
actually
Kent
impossible.
Hovind is actually bucking the tide. There's a guy, Dow, I think his name is.
Mhm.
He's tried to argue, and Answers in Genesis has been kind of funneling some of this as well, that all of Egyptian history has to be after the flood, all of it. So the pyramids
No,
have to be built after the flood,
Yeah.
and they've got it's a requirement of the dynamics of flood things. But Kent, being an idiot, doesn't really understand his own side, so he's
James,
still
Yeah.
pushing something
And
that doesn't
James,
make sense, even within their own framework now.
James, have you have done this a long time? Have you ever come across a point where Kent Hovind actually listened to someone else and accepted what they said?
Oh, outside of wacky creationism, no. Kent is a trawler who skirts around the fringe of creationism. He's not really an Answers in Genesis or ICR guy. He's a Carl Baugh, Paluxy River Tracks. Some idiot writes a posting online and he copies it. He's a bottom feeder, and Eric is the son of bottom feeder.
Son of bottom Peter. I like it.
well, it's because Eric actually has actually been using Dad's scripts for years.
Well,
Indeed.
the thing with Marcus Ross, see what Eric is, he's trying to distance himself from Daddy in some ways because Marcus Ross is an ICR IG guy. He's air quotes mainstream creationist, and Andrew Snelling and these various others that Eric tends to siphon off, and he's had his guests on his show. We've seen him. He's actually sucking up to standardized creationism, but because Eric doesn't know how to compare notes, he doesn't realize that he might be bumping into areas that he is not equipped to deal with.
All right, let us. Hopefully, we can get
Yeah.
to his special guest.
I
We've
want
had
to get to Marcus Ross.
yeah, really, we've had an awful lot of now. We've said this before. I wonder if it's going to work this time. Should we let the minor stupid and all asked and answered things just go on by?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just try to hold on and not buzz until Marcus shows
So
up.
Indeed.
there is one small problem with that.
Okay.
Eric Hovind and mine are stupid. It does not exist.
Understandable. But I see a buzz from Karis. Karis, please. What have you?
No, I just said that because RJ told us not to.
Oh.
Yeah. I did that
You're just a
earlier.
scamp.
All right. On that note, moving on.
A local flood would seem global to the local population.
They are forced to pick and choose which scriptures have biblical authority and which don't. Well, we don't
Like
want
they
to
do.
do that.
Yeah.
We want to respect the biblical text and interpret its meaning as accurately as we can using good hermeneutics.
If you remember, we discussed the hermeneutics of Genesis in episode 3 with Chris Roseborough. We concluded Genesis has to be read as literal history. So, what does the text actually...
Up.
You didn't.
Tornado, my friend. Off you go.
Genesis is literal history? Well, sure, if only for a sense of we don't know what time. Never mind. I was going to say Genesis is not literal history. It's an allegory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tornado,
Just
where have
not-
you been? You know who we're talking to.
That's
Yeah,
true.
and
Oh,
I would
right.
point out that if we do literal history and what it says, then why do they accept the idea of the globe in outer space?
Yep.
Why don't they say that water is above us in outer space?
Agreed.
Because they
seem to skip
can't,
over
because
that.
they know that science would laugh at them, and they try to be sciencey.
Yeah,
Agreed.
nothing is more hilarious than watching Kent Hovind explain why flat Earth is unscientific.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how.
The irony meter just exploded. Oh God! Go, go, go!
And
And
the thing
he
is,
has
the
done that.
flat earthers, and what makes it even
Yep.
better is when the flat earthers use the Bible. That's
Oh,
what makes
indeed.
it funny.
Oh, indeed.
Oh yeah. Most flat earthers are a subset of young Earth creation, geocentrism, which is a subset of young Earth creationism, which is a subset of general creationism, which is a subset of general anti-evolutionism, which is a major subset of stupid.
Okay then.
And
All right.
is
And
stupid
on that
assumption
note,
of anything?
what? All right, moving on. Let's get to the special guests here.
say? It says Adam and Eve were made at the beginning of creation. Death came into the world as a result of sin. Adam
Drink.
was the first man.
Okay, Cap.
That's just plain wrong. Adam and Eve were not at the beginning of creation. They weren't created until day 6. The beginning of creation was day 1. So are you saying Adam and Eve were spacemen? Maybe Jared from Spirit Science had some. Space
Alright.
juice!
Could be. Squirrel. I see you buzz,
Nope.
please.
He Cat beat me to it.
Okay, good enough. Moving
Fair
on.
enough.
Here we go.
Jews.
Man.
Yes,
And Adam
space.
was the first man that sinned. So you can't have any death until after Adam sinned. And don't forget the genealogies.
Yes.
I've got my longevity chart here. When you add up the literal ages, it puts Adam
Well,
and
that
Eve
must be
about
true.
6,000 years ago. Hermeneutically, the old Earth view doesn't fit.
No.
Who is this Herman guy?
So, what about
Don't know.
scientifically? Does the evidence prove the Earth is
And why do
old
we care
like
about
we're
his
told
oodics?
from secular science community? We have rock layers to look at, radiometric dating to examine, erosional forces to consider.
But Marianne, we don't want to look at all this by ourselves. Joining us after the break, we're going to be joined by Dr. Marcus Ross, geology professor from
Here it comes.
Liberty University.
And he'll help
Yay,
us
I'm so
examine
looking
the scientific
forward to
evidence
this, Jan.
for
While the
and
break,
against
I'm going to
Boulder's
get it
claims.
cereal.
Stay tuned.
I called the
Beginnings
drink.
is a creation experience for small groups, churches, and
All right. I see in the list, Cap, I see you have buzzed first.
Squirrel was before me.
Well, he didn't buzz before you, but okay,
They
Squirrel.
did.
I most certainly
He
did.
did.
Oh, did you? I wonder why this didn't update. Okay, Squirrel.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Even.
Squirrel, go.
oh dear. Once again, Eric. So many layers of wrong. You make me want. Honestly, you make me want to climb the trees and the nearest wall and everything else. Now I've actually completely forgotten what it was I was going to complain about.
Wait, I can't
Yeah, I
augment
had,
the drink.
I had one on their biblical interpretation that they were just completely screwed up. Oh yeah, the genetics one that I'll add in on that of the whole genealogy.
Oh,
that
was-
screws that up.
Oh, that's right.
There's-
Marianne was talking about radiometric dating.
Yeah,
Radiometric dating and examining rock layers. The problem, of course, is you don't know anything about either one of those things, Marianne, and neither does Eric. You're going to take it from Ross, and Ross is an idiot.
Well,
Yeah.
we shall see. Cap, what do you got?
Yeah, pretty much mine was on. There was another point, I don't remember what it was, but I do remember when they were talking about the genealogy of adding them up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that doesn't work because even your own Bible can't even keep that one straight. I mean, look at the genealogy list in the Old Testament. Look at and then the Matthew and Luke, I believe it is. Look at their genealogy. It don't add
Those
up.
two couldn't agree on who Mary's father was.
Hmm.
No, Joseph's dad. Mary's
Was it
father is
Joseph?
not mentioned. It's Joseph's dad. It's his paternal grandparent. So yeah, Jesus had two granddads on his dad's side. So how can God be against LGBT people when his own son's granddad were gay?
All right. Peter, I see you buzzed in. Please add to
Yes,
the fun.
yes, yeah. Because I've been watching the chat also, and we just touched on this in here as well. And we do have a specialist on this case in the panel. So I want to throw out a question for Karis. First of all, who's Herman? And second, why was he neutered?
Oh my. Oh my. All right.
And was he circumcised?
On that.
He was indeed circumcised.
Okay.
On the seventh day after birth.
Got it.
I think he got a little
Eighth
too
day,
much
actually.
circumcision.
All right.
How much stupid did I miss?
Not much. All right. Moving on. That's a lie.
Hopefully enough.
Moving on.
Let me address the chat one more time. Donopad says, why ask Karis? Because Karis actually preached this. So I think she's the best specialist we have on this. So maybe that answers. And no, I'm not going to say that. No, carry on.
Okay.
What?
Carrying on. Here we go. Moving on.
Individuals from all walks of life. Creation speaker
we skip
Eric
the ad?
Hoover explores the age-old questions of
Oh,
life,
let it run.
the evidence for
don't,
young
don't call
living,
Drake.
and how
Sleazy
dinosaurs
empathetic,
fit in
though it
with the
may be.
Bible. The included guide provides an introduction to each lesson,
This is
creative
commercial, let's be
challenges,
fair.
great discussion questions, and practical ways to apply
But
each
fine,
lesson
plug
to
and plug
everyday
is until
life.
the end of
To
the
order
show.
this DVD, go to www.creationstore.org.
Excellent. Oh, here we
There's been
go.
an incredible
Oh,
calm that's occurred in the culture.
I sat through
Evolution
his
in
nonsense.
millions of years is the greatest
I wanna
myth
see it.
ever forced on
No, you
It can't be
don't.
that bad. It can't be
Big
as
Bang,
bad as you
evolution,
say.
millions of years. People just believe it blindly.
How can you
Cap,
not
it's on my
believe
channel.
that somebody designed all of this?
We know he exists because of creation.
Oh, by the way, did you see that tornado? I'm not addressing you, tornado. I'm saying, did you?
Yeah, the
see...
tornado.
Yes.
Yeah, I did
That's
see that
stuffy.
tornado.
In the movie, that
God,
tornado spits out Adam and Eve. Just poof. There you go. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, there's shots of it in Paleontology's latest
Yep.
video. He's
I
got
hope-
some good cuts of that, and some good cuts at them.
Yeah, I hope everybody's following that series. He's up to number 2 at the moment. And
Yeah.
if you haven't, head on over to Apology's channel and take a peek at those. And it's very good.
Isn't
All right,
Apology a British?
here we go. What did
I
you
was
say?
gonna- I asked, isn't Apology a British?
No, he's from Canada.
No, Canadian.
No, he's Canadian.
Yep.
You know
Something,
you know the
I
people
think British
we don't
Columbia
care
or
about.
Edmonton or somewhere around in there.
All right, moving
Yeah.
on. Here we go. Back to the commercial.
Looks pretty, doesn't it?
I was hoping they were going to show the bananas. There's a tree full of fully formed bananas.
There is a generic sauropod.
With a consider this, with a movie in which the Banana Man was featured, they had the Garden of Eden with a tree with fully formed bananas hanging off.
I will point out as a technical item,
Yes.
if the idea is the sauropod is going to eat a palm frond like that, it's going to starve to death because it has no chewing molars. It is not a mammal. It has rakes and can only eat conifer kinds of leaf by raking them off. So the poor little critter is going to drop dead from starvation.
So even the commercial contains things to call drink.
Scientific inaccuracies. Yeah, everybody forget about that. And just to be clear, do you see grass there?
Yes.
That also is not true. There are no monocot grasses at all until really post-Cretaceous. That's another entirely. In fact, one of the reasons why that kept grasses from developing in the angiosperms is because the oxygen levels were a little too high, and forest fires would tend to pop up. So that's another problem.
Gotcha. All right, back to the commercial.
Don't light a match.
Oh, sorry, Karis. What'd you say?
I just said don't light a match.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Well, we're certainly not going to be able to light a fire under Eric's brain.
Would that really definitely demonstrate the Big Bang?
Mm-hmm.
No, it would demonstrate the big boom.
Or the need to hit play.
Hey,
there we go.
Boom, same thing.
We're hitting play now. Here we go.
It's not just faith. We have science. It's really on our side.
Yeah.
Drink! That is the dumbest thing I've heard in a while.
You're watching Battleship Apologetics here on Creation Today.
Just for bad camera angles.
Welcome back to the Creation.
Okay.
I have to say it's not battle. Hold on. First, I got a buzz. I have to say it's not Battleship Apologetics. It's bullshit apologetics.
Oh, I get it. All right, moving on.
Mm-hmm. Well, before you move on, I'll just point out something that didn't occur to me before. Is there something inadvertently ironic that he talks about battleship apologetics when battleships are obsolete naval technology?
Unintentional, but yeah.
That is a good point.
That's.
Also, I should call Hasbro to sue this guy.
All right, moving on.
Talking about the age of the Earth, a critically important topic. So to really address this correct.
Yes, Peter.
Shouldn't we get Eric in touch with Ken Ham? Because I would really love to see Ken Ham attach some neat guns to his ark. I mean,
well,
that would
to me that would be a reason to actually go visit it.
Agreed. That would do it.
That might actually be historically accurate because there are, according to creationist comics and other things like that by creationists, the devil sent dinosaurs to attack the ark.
What?
So they had to fit it off somehow.
What? I thought there were dinosaurs on. You know what? I'm not even going into it.
Logic did one.
If you can find an example of that to send me, I'd like to see that. That one is a rib tickler. I'd want to add to my tip.
I'll send you. The only one I know is from Logic. So
if you have the physical thing, just do a PDF of it. And
I don't. All I have is Logic's thing. So
yeah, I don't remember where I saw this one, but it was dinosaurs weren't on the ark because Satan had them attack it instead.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'll get to the video. You hear that, Lucifer? What are you doing?
All right, moving on.
We're going to the experts. Our guest interview today is Dr. Marcus Ross from Liberty University. Dr. Ross, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me on, Eric. It's great to be here.
Now, let me get right to it. How old is the Earth?
It is as old as it is.
Damn good
in a sense, it's a weird question, but
for
the day in which we find ourselves now, people are saying that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, or the Earth is a few thousands of years old, and I stand solidly on the claim that the Earth is only a few thousands of years old.
Wait.
Okay, hold on. Peter, point of order. If you need to interject, you got to yell "drink" as well. And
I buzzed, but let it go. It's too stupid to even mention.
All right, moving on.
That stopped anybody so far?
Here we go.
You're a doctorate.
Yeah, well, the Earth is as old as
in
it
geology.
is. I mean, yeah,
you've
that's
studied
a great
this,
statement.
and you're still coming down that the Earth is only a few thousand years old, like a biblical creation perspective teaches.
Yeah, exactly. Despite all the alphabet soup that happens to be behind my name, I believe that the Bible is absolutely correct on, and that we are correct in interpreting the scripture as we have it to tell us that the age of the earth from creation to now is only measured in several thousands of years. 6,000 years, 8,000 years, somewhere in that range is going to be the age of the earth.
Now, we get a lot of people saying, hold it, hold it, hold it. No, the scientists have proved the Earth is billions of years old. So obviously you've had to study this. You got a degree in it. So tell me, what are they using? What's the best evidence that it could be actually old?
Yeah, and to be fair to my evolutionary and old age colleagues, they have some arguments that are quite compelling on this area. There's two main areas where we would say that the conventional geologists would make an argument for the age of the Earth being many billions of years old. One is going to come from radioactive decay and the disintegration of things like uranium into lead. And when we find those materials in mineral crystals, we use the ratios of those two and make some assumptions about how fast one turns to the other, and that effectively becomes like a little clock inside the mineral. So one way of trying...
All right, Squirrel, I believe.
Okay, first off, we are well aware of the decay rates of every radioactive substance we've been able to get our hands on. We don't make assumptions on that. We have direct evidence. We have evidence of these things in all cases. We have direct, observations, direct evidence. Not a whole lot of difference in this particular case.
So his Pinocchio nose should be growing at this point.
Well, this guy here, he is actually educated. He's supposed to know better. Okay.
Yeah, well, in a selective kind of way. He already was a young Earth creationist when he was going to get his degree, and so he was not a matter of somebody is going to be convinced or not. He wanted to get a secular kind of a degree so that he could prod around that he's got a secular kind of a degree. But his reasoning is exactly the same as every other creationist. It's evidence only when convenient.
Indeed. All right.
Either way, we're not making assumptions about the rates of radioactive decay. We have direct observation of these things, and you're still an idiot.
Quite true. All right, moving on.
Can we get a click?
Date a rock, if you will, is to use the radioactive elements that decay and use that clock system. Another way is to look at the layering of the sedimentary rocks in particular. And some geologists will make arguments that there's so many events in those layers that we should be able to make an argument that the Earth is well past the biblical age on the basis of things like layers within lakes that look like they go back thousands of years, or you'll hear lots of people talk about ice cores in places like Greenland or Antarctica, where different layers and clear and cloudy zones of the glacier are supposed to be annual couplings of summer, winter, and if you follow those back, you go back a couple 100,000 years. So you can either use the radioactive dating methods to try and come up with a numerical age for rocks, or you can use the layering in lakes, in glaciers, or several other types of geological settings to try and make an argument that the Earth is ancient. Those are two of the more powerful sets of arguments that are laid out by older...
Squirrel, I believe it's you.
Yes, those two methods are both used, and usually at the same time. What they do is they use one method and then they cross-confirm with the other through several different tests. There's all kinds of tests that you can do like that to confirm an age for any specific object or rock layer, and it's the combination of all of those things when they agree that will give you a proper range for a particular rock layer. And even then, your accuracy is limited to plus or minus, depending on how old it is, plus or minus anything from 20 to 30 years, all the way up to 1 million.
Yeah, Marcus is giving a kind of semi-accurate summary of the nature of the problem. He mentions stuff that's actually true, but he's trying to minimize it when he says some geologists say. No, we're talking about virtually every geologist for the last 200 years. This is not something that's just popped up just last week. That they were working on this for all the people who... Yeah, and a lot of these will never find out about it. What fascinates me about the dating system is that just working on the regular geology, geologists by the late 19th century had worked out back to the Cambrian that it was about 500 million years. And that didn't change much with radiometric dating. That just refined some of the fiddly bit details. But what really changed was they didn't realize how much had occurred before the Cambrian when they had no fossils to indicate and that there was so few rocks left. So
Well,
he's
and then
given
you
a
had Lord Kelvin,
really...
who was absolutely convinced of a young age, and then by his own experiments realized that you're talking about billions of years.
Well, no, well, he was convinced that the Earth and the Sun and that could only be like tens of millions of years old, but that is impossible from a young Earth creationist position. So they even have to shred Kelvin's calculations, which didn't take into account radioactive dating. Another factor that plays a role here is there are some radioactive material that has such long half-lives that it's there at all means that things have been going on for a really long time, unless God is creating stuff deliberately in place to give the impression that it's old, in which case he's a lying piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, there are people out there who believe that, yeah, even though if you were in the Garden of Eden when human creative Adam went and cut down a tree or drilled in and took a core sample, the rings might show that the Earth, that tree was a couple hundred years old, but in fact, it was only like 1 or 2 days old.
Most of the time.
Yeah, there's some weird out there. The main
Most
one that
of
comes to mind is my main nemesis that I still need to finish up the series on, of John MacArthur. Oh, what an idiot. Or as we know him, Mr. Ty, which we
Ah, good
still
old
need to
Mr.
finish that
Ty.
video up.
I miss Mr.
Most
Ty.
of the time, the argument that I hear is that everything that we see today that makes the old Earth look older than 6,000 years were put there by the devil to make us think that.
Ah,
Yeah, that's another one.
got it.
There's so many crazy ideas out there. I can't even keep track of what is what.
Sneaky bastard, Lucifer. But Lucifer was in the public chat. Lucifer, is that true? Did you really put things? Did you seed the Earth with things that look old? Well, just let us know when time allows. All right.
Yeah, we can get it right from the beast's mouth there.
Absolutely.
The thing is that Marcus has to present a worldview that misses most of the data field, and if you manage to do that, there's nobody that I can think of anywhere in the creationist worldview that came to their young Earth creationism by paying attention to all the data. They come to it because they become convinced that it's true, and then they spend their life tunnel visioning on little teeny snippets and stuff. But an obvious question that would have been fun to see Eric ask Ross, and I suspect he won't, is describe the flood layer where Marcus Ross is at Liberty U, or describe the flood layer where Eric is in wherever it is Eric is. And you would theoretically be able to do that because like a global flood is like global.
That it is.
Right?
Or at least one would expect. All right.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to go to the Grand Canyon or the Lewis Overthrust or polystrate fossils in Yellowstone. You can walk outside.
One would imagine. All righty.
I buzzed because Lucifer did respond to you. He said it is true what you asked him. Now, here's the $1 million question, though. Is he telling the truth? Because remember, Lucifer is the father of all lies. So by him saying it's true, does that actually make it false?
It's almost like we can't trust imaginary religious creatures.
No, he was only slandered by God. He's not the father of all lies.
Aha.
Now I'm kind of curious.
No, I think that's actually Alex Jones.
Oh,
okay.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Alex Jones was slandered by God?
yeah, you just think that creature's been around in one little. He sheds skin like a homunculus, and then sprouts new ones. I will have to do a whole thing on the natural history, the unnatural history of Alex Jones, spawn of evil.
Alrighty.
Wait.
Now I'm kind of
He
curious.
shed skin. That's why he knows so much about the reptilian overlords. He's actually one of them.
Yeah, this is all beginning to make sense, Ty.
Absolutely.
It's a smoke screen.
It's all connected. Yeah. All right. Cap, was that your buzz?
Yeah, that was my buzz to let you
right.
know about Lucifer.
Got it.
I'm kind of curious.
Well done.
I know this would be different depending on where you are, but I'm kind of curious approximately how deep you would have to dig to get to 6,000-year-old stuff.
Oh, you're walking on it. Where I am in Spokane, virtually all the physical deposits that's on top of the Columbia basalt is the stuff that's been deposited in the 12,000 or so years since the Missoula flooding stopped. And so all of this real estate around here has a very thin topsoil, precisely because it's only come along from natural erosion and stuff weathering and all that stuff. And you can measure how fast soil develops. You can measure all sorts of things. You can measure isotope balances, all that sciencey stuff that Marcus pays very little attention to, that's supposedly in his own discipline of geology.
Yeah. And I have a question. I don't think anyone did this, but can we call drink for the Liberty University bit? I mean, they're putting someone on from there. Is that a drinkable call?
It's fair to say Liberty is a young Earth creationist friendly college. There are quite a few creationists that land like BBs rolling down the hill into Liberty U land, and quite a lot of people get their degrees from Liberty University. I think Tony Perkins from the Family Research Council got his degree from Liberty U. So it's been a purveyor of woo for about the last 40 years.
All right. Yeah. It's all right. Anyway, moving on. Here we go.
Geologist.
Okay, so is there a good counter to this? Is it, well, they're just not looking from the right perspective?
Yeah, let's hear that.
So I want to ask, is there a good counter? And then as far as the ages of all those different layers to the Earth, didn't they come up with old Earth ages way before the idea of carbon dating?
My God, he does know something.
To answer that last question first, yes, the idea of an ancient Earth started off because of all of those events in geology, and also because of the discovery of extinction. Right? Today, you and I take for granted that dinosaurs died out, and everybody knows that dinosaurs aren't, around in Florida, for example, walking around. You got big crocodile, you got big alligators.
That's true.
But no T-Rex, right? But in the late 17 and early 1800s, when the first...
Wait a minute. You know what? Drink. I have a drink.
I got one too.
Dinosaurs died out. It's not like I'm talking or anything, Cap. Anyway, dinosaurs died out. We all know that. Well, I beg to differ. I just happened to have earlier this evening ordered up a fine bucket of KFC.
Of Kentucky Fried Dinosaur, yeah.
So, all right.
Here's the little snag, and
Yes?
I'll see whether it'll be fun to see whether Ross gets into this or whether poor Eric gets into it. Wasn't the whole point of the Ark to preserve all the life on Earth? So if there were dinosaurs on the Ark, how come they died out? And my favorites, the synapsids in the reptile mammal transition. Where's my Dimetrodons? Where's my Sphenacodons? Where's my Astematosuchids? I want to have them.
Pony.
All right.
Yeah. And my drink call is, well, we take it for granted that, these animals died out and we know they aren't around today. Nope. Sorry. Your crowd, and quite a few of them, believe that dinosaurs are tramping around in Australia or wherever at.
When I first started all of this,
in some places.
Yeah, when I first started all of this fun, there was a YEC guy that was doing some kind of GoFundMe to go find the dinosaurs in South America. I don't even
Africa
remember,
or somewhere or other.
I don't even remember who it was. But strangely quiet.
There's a small group of them. There's a small field of cryptozoology creationist types, and it intersects Kent Hovind because he presents this twaddle. Marcus is representing the official button-down PhD guys at the ICR and AIG because he double dips at both of those organizations. And they don't really pay a hell of a lot of attention to that stuff because it might make them look like even more stupid than they already look.
Wait. So Eric's going against what his dad says?
Kind of, yeah.
Eric.
He wants to go a little more mainstream. He's still a young Earth creationist, but he sucks up to these air quotes mainstream creationists like Ross and Snelling and all the rest. Whereas his dad is kind of regarded as both theologically and scientifically too toxic to touch. Answers in Genesis is explicitly criticized Kent Hovind for being stupid. And how stupid can you get in order to be called stupid by Answers in Genesis?
That's pretty harsh.
If he's going against what his father says, well, then we got a problem Because if I remember, in Exodus
honor
20,
your
it says
father.
to honor thy father.
So
Yeah.
So Eric
But
raises some
if he-
problems there.
If he believes that his father is going against scripture, then he's not bound to do what his father says.
I see. All right.
There is no
yeah,
exception
okay. So then he can just
in
flush
that
him down the
commandment.
toilet like
Yes, there is
Saul
an
was supposed to do
exception.
with the Amalekites.
There was a remark. See, actually, there was a remark in the chat earlier that's much earlier
Yeah.
that said that Eric robbed Kent blind while he was in government housing. So
Yes, he did.
That's not actually true.
Oh.
Yeah, what Eric had left, or what was left after the IRS was done with him, they specifically gave to Eric. It became his. The house that he was living in, and some of the money stayed with Eric. And then when Kent came back, he tried to assume control, and Eric told him to basically just told him to go fuck himself.
I
Yeah.
see.
Oh, in a polite biblical sort of way, of course.
Absolutely.
No, probably not. If I know anything about Eric.
Well,
he
no,
was,
he always walks around with the Bible. I'm sure he
apparently
didn't say
about
what
it.
you said. I'm sure he said, "Go and know yourself." I think that's what he said. He put it in biblical terms.
Yeah.
Okay, so
go
let's Marcus Ross proceed with his
perform a great many anatomical impossibilities.
Nice over talking,
I
everybody.
just want.
Nice over talking.
Okay, well, Kara has something. I had one thing to say to her, so I'll say it after.
Karis, you buzzed. Please proceed, Karis.
I was told that no, there is no, there's nothing that gets him out of honoring his father, but disagreeing with his father also is not dishonoring him, and also the escape clause from that is found elsewhere in Scripture, where it says we are to obey God rather than man.
Yeah,
And
I know,
that's
and
why-
that's actually the point I was going to clarify was when I was saying there's no exception to that, I was referring to the actual just at that point where it's listed as the commandment. So that was what I was going to clarify. Actually, was that I know elsewhere it says to follow God over man, but I was referring specifically to that one set of verses of honor thy father and mother, so your days may be long and prosperous.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty loose standards there. You can really stretch them every which way. This is like
would
rubber
say.
bands.
Well, also, I mean, honor thy father and mother as an adult. That does not. It's not saying to obey your father all throughout your life.
But when they refer to honoring God, they refer to obeying God. And if I remember correctly, the Hebrew words used are the same in both cases.
Except for one thing, he did get married, so he's to leave his father and cleave unto his wife.
Yeah.
A lot of cleaving going on in the Old Testament, too.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And Dick Holman points out that there's no honor among Hovens. All right. On that.
I like that.
And there's more honor than brains.
Yes, that's. All right, moving on. Here we go.
Both of us
Big reptiles of the Mesozoic, so-called era, but of the Mesozoic are found. Things like mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs. When those were being discovered, scientists realized for the very first time that these are animals that are not alive today, and it caused a bit of a crisis. And part of the response to this was to envision that there were ancient ages in the past beyond the biblical timescale in which these organisms used to live. And that's when we start seeing the theological approaches of things like day, age, and gap.
Hefkar, you got a call?
I'm not sure if I'm going to say drink on this because I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure dinosaurs were not the first fossils or even remains found that indicated animals that didn't exist today.
No, in fact, it was mammals, Pleistocene stuff that was popping up first.
Okay, so
and
that is a
that
drink
was
then.
something that one of the things that really flummoxed Thomas Jefferson was that they were finding all of these Ice Age animals that aren't like any current ones. It was then in the 1820s that some of the very first fossils that later became identified as dinosaurs came in. And I think it was in the 1830s then when Richard Owen actually coined the term, which just means terrible lizard, because it had some reptilian characteristics, but fell outside of the range of any others of those. The mosasaurs and ichthyosaurs, he mentions all basically marine animals. And most of those are popping in the Triassic period, so it's quite early on. And we can trace the evolution of ichthyosaurs, and we can trace the evolution of plesiosaurs and pliosaurs, and there's the nodosaurs. And I'm suddenly talking about a whole bunch of taxa that we'll see whether Marcus gets anywhere that detailed in his chat with Kent or with Eric.
Let us see. Let's see. Seeing nothing else, nobody else
He's the
buzzed.
paleontologist, remember?
Let's see what he has to say. And here we go.
Theory invented to account for the idea that maybe there's this deep history to the world. So the idea of an ancient Earth comes long before things like carbon dating, uranium, lead, or the other methods that are there. And my old age colleagues would say, well, but the radioactive dating method just gave us more precision. We already knew it was old. These gave us actual number dates, whereas before we had to kind of, just fudge around with the ideas and think, oh, maybe it's this old. But now the radioactive dating say, well, it's this old in particular.
Okay, I'm going to save that other question then, because I want to get to this for our listeners. Is there evidence that the Earth is young then? I mean, okay, you know what they say about that, and yet you're saying it's only 6,000. What do you got?
Yeah, let's see it.
Well,
Bring it
my
on.
colleague Stephen Austin, who's also a geologist, a trained PhD, he's compiled a wide number of different evidences of clocks that.
Okay, Cap, you're up.
Yeah, the whole Stephen Austin thing. Isn't that the same Stephen Austin who went and took layers, sent them to be tested, asked for a method to be used that he knew wouldn't work, and then claimed that disproved radiometric dating? That's Stephen Austin, who is
that's
very
Stephen.
dishonest.
I call attention to that in Dynamania.
Yep, almost as dishonest. Alrighty. Agreed. That's
He
the
also
same.
intentionally took samples that wouldn't have turned out right anyway.
Yeah.
He tried to dispute isochron dating by taking two volcanic samples that are not contiguous, which is exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do with an isochron, and then faked up a fake isochron on that basis. It's like trying to make a faked up crime scene to prove that real crime scenes don't ever exist.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And moving on.
Don't match up with the ancient age clocks. So, for example, the amount of salt that is in the ocean is one that is often talked about. At ocean rates that we see going on today, the ocean would be far saltier than it is right now, even if it started out as fresh water.
RJ,
we're in a race. You can take it first.
RJ, you're up.
Okay, salt. This was an old issue before we knew about plate tectonics, where the oceans get subducted. There is no seafloor anywhere on Earth that dates back more than a few 100 million years. So the idea that salt is just sitting there pristine, never allowed to accumulate anywhere. No, I'm terribly sorry. The ocean is active, and we can measure the plate movements with those little lasery things now. So we've moved beyond, Marcus.
Okay. All right. Speaking of moving beyond, let us move on.
There's not enough salt in there to account for even 300 million years or something like that. Never mind something like 4.5
because
billion.
None of the seafloor is 300 million years old. You nincompoop.
For me as a paleontologist, since I studied fossils, some of the things that indicate to me that events happen very, very quickly in the fossil record and not over long.
RJ.
Frank.
Okay.
Yeah, paleontologist. As I pointed out earlier, this guy does not do paleontology. Even at Liberty University, I've seen no instance of where he's done professional papers in any technical journal. Steve Austin actually had published in an actual geology journal. Andrew Snelling has done that. There's a small pile of scientists in the creation community that actually have published in stuff. Jeffrey Tompkins and others. Marcus Rossi is not one of them. He slips through the cracks on this, and like his fellow creationist paleontologist Kurt Wise, he doesn't really do paleontology. Doesn't go out on digs. Doesn't classify stuff. He doesn't do a pioneering research. If you took all of creationist paleontologists over the last 200 years and took them away on a long vacation, the amount of knowledge in paleontology would not be diminished by 1 micrometer.
Alrighty. And here we go.
That's a dangerous statement you just made, RJ.
Oh?
Because it sounds to me like you're saying all creationists will be forever stupid.
They're Tortukans. That creationists, and this isn't just young Earth creationism, intelligent designers suffer from cranial blockage of the rectum too. If you look at somebody like Michael Denton, who has no religious motivations whatsoever, he's an agnostic, He overlooks data. He walks past his source points. He doesn't think through what he thinks happened. He doesn't have a standard for changing his mind. Exactly the same 4 core problems that we find in secondary citation that Marcus Ross has and every single creationist has. This is a methodological pathology of behavior. It isn't about their religion. It is about their addiction to secondary sources. It's about their limited data field. Remember, I'm measuring all of this. And the entire anti-evolution movement, including young Earth creationism, only bumps into about 10% of the data field. They're missing 90% right off the bat.
Alrighty.
Yeah,
and here we go.
I have one thing to add to it about how they want to talk about rock formations and things like that. Please, can they explain to me how the Monument Rocks or the chalk pyramids out here in Kansas formed in that time frame? Because that's literally impossible.
Indeed. I don't expect you to be getting an answer to that from any of these fellows anytime
Yeah,
soon.
you could Google to find out. Just this last week, one of the reasons why I was up to my eyeballs in source citations, it pushed me over 24,000 now, is that I was tracking down a creationist paper that was on genetics, and that just come out in 2009 about the chromosome fusion thing. And what was fascinating about it, they were bringing up a bunch of technical issues that they never followed up on. None of them in the almost 10 years since that paper came out in creationism land. There's been no follow-up work. Meanwhile, the regular science has moved on. So if you want to look at who does the work, Marcus Ross is not it, and the people in creationism land aren't it.
Alrighty. On that note, I think we can move on. Here we go.
Periods of time. Let me take two quick ones. One is foot tracks and footprints, right? Dinosaurs and other animals were running around, and occasionally they made steps on wet mud. And when they did, most of the time when we make steps on wet mud, you go back the next day or 2 days later, it's all gone.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing left. But there's a large number of foot tracks in the fossil record, telling us that when those foot tracks are made, very quick.
Oh, RJ.
Yeah, the preservation of ichnofossils, that's what we're talking about. And there's a huge technical literature on how they form and how fast they are preserved and all the little circumstances that you can tell about them. And it's not just footprints, it's burrows, there's a whole bunch of stuff. They are very rare to form. But rare when it happens over millions and 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 millions. Oh, I'm nowhere near running out of the millions. A rare event becomes inevitable again and again and again and again and again, just by the happenstance of things. So this is somebody who is trying to argue that because the Grand Slam poker hand it doesn't occur very often, that nobody ever gets them.
Indeed. All right. And here we go.
Another layer of sediment has to cover over them in order to preserve them and make the track. Now that a geologist could say, well, it just means there were quick events that were happening. But here's the neat thing. The first dinosaur fossils are generally found above the tracks.
Wow.
Now when you think about this, what's easier to fossilize, a bone or a footprint?
Uh-oh. RJ. You're up, sir.
Effing citation needed. There are tracks going all the way back into the Permian and the like, but the earliest dinosaurs are in the late Triassic. If you've got an example of a lot of dinosaur tracks that predate the earliest dinosaurs in the Triassic, please, by all means, present it to us. But I've never seen you present it, or any creationist, or any of the paleontology literature. And I am a dino groupie. I keep really close tabs on this.
Yes, I suspect
He's not going to present them because they don't exist, RJ.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's like bunnies
and Eric, credulous git, will not be asking him for sources.
So he'll just.
By the way, on this video, just as a forensic detail, am I suggesting that when you looked at the description of the video online at YouTube, I'm assuming, that there was just links to their websites and stuff like that, but not links to the technical literature or science information that they were drawing on?
It's almost as if he knows.
Yeah, it's kind of like I've seen that pattern before. And but is there somebody that you know when they do subjects on science matters always puts up open access technical papers so everybody can follow up on them and check out whether that certain unnamed person is actually playing fair with the facts?
Wait. I know somebody who's got a couple of books out too.
Yeah. Gosh, who is that person? I'm straining.
RJ,
There's a couple of people.
Yourself, knock it off.
You're getting dangerously close to plug time.
Show.
Yeah, but the thing is that you can tell people's method by how they apply the method. And the point is that the last thing on earth that creationists are anxious to do is to make it easy for you to fact check them.
Indeed.
And the very first thing I want everybody to be able to do is to be able to do their own follow-up and do their fact checking on their own and learn. So you can judge by the comparative method which one of us is doing things a little differently than Mr. Battleship.
Indeed. Alrighty. Let us. Squirrel has something to add. Squirrel, please go ahead.
Yeah, Squirrel is flagging. He's gonna go wander off now.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for making it this far. I realize that
Well, there should be a live stream tomorrow, barring any power outages.
Okay then.
So
we'll
have a good night, Squirrel.
We'll be looking forward to that. Good night there,
All
Squirrel.
right,
have a nice
night.
morning. All righty. And
while we're waiting to resume, someone in the live chat was talking about T-Rex ate carrots and that, and Carrot says T-Rex loves watermelon. I'm not making this up. Dwayne Gish and Ken Ham have claimed that T-Rex ate gourds or melons or bark.
Yes, they have.
Yep, I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
So,
it's their teeth. How did one of their people do it?
6-inch steak saw teeth with serrated things in a shock absorber skull designed to slam into animals. Is perfectly adapted to gnawing on bark.
Yeah, Ken Ham put some video out that was just like a machete will cut through tough brush, then the T-Rex teeth would cut through melons.
Well, he also pointed out. He also tried to indicate that the roots of the teeth were not deep enough to be a biting, ripping
also false.
predator. Yes, agreed.
And we also have actual teeth marks that specifically match specific taxa of carnosaurs, including T-Rexes, on their victims in the paleontological record. But then again, who's expecting creationists to pay attention to the paleontological literature? Marcus Ross, maybe?
So you're not expecting Dr. Ross to bring that up then? The marks.
I would be effing gobsmacked if he did.
All right. Okay. Good point. Very good.
So let me, by all means, effing gobsmack me, Marcus.
Let's see what he's got. Here we go.
The bone.
The bone, the hard stuff, the teeth, the scales, the shells, all that sort of thing. But when it comes to dinosaurs, when it comes to several other reptile groups, when it comes to amphibians, in fact, what are supposed to be the very first amphibians, we know all of those groups are around first from foot tracks, not from body fossils. And this tells us that the first appearance of these animals is when they're running around away from something. Sediments bury those tracks, and then we find the track
it's already
makers
asked
above.
and answered.
Now,
He's
for a
just wrong.
creationist, this makes perfect sense. These animals are trying to flee and escape the flood, and there's not much time between when they're running, tracks get covered, and when
Cap has
I was waiting for him to bring the flood up.
Okay.
One, they would have to have the tracks would have had to harden in the soft mud from the rain, for one. So you're wrong there. And two, how the hell do we have fossilized raindrops when the whole crap was underwater before it had a chance to harden? Care to explain that one away?
And the airborne volcanic ash and the Aeolian windblown deposits. Velociraptors are in windblown sand dunes. That's in the Cretaceous. Velociraptor, by the way, is the little itty-bitty version of the air quotes velociraptor that you see in Jurassic Park, which is actually Deinonychus, a much bigger cousin to that. But so there's lots and lots of examples of these things, and I have never read a convincing explanation, even from Andrew Snelling with a heavier gun geology degree than Marcus has, to ever actually give a plausible account for any of that data.
Keep waiting.
Yeah, keep waiting. Oh, hope springs eternal. Yeah, but my springs have sprung.
Indeed. Well, let's see if watching this amount of stupid has done any damage to RJ's brain. Here's the test I usually
Yeah. Well,
do.
by the way, what time are we on? How far are we into the
We
show?
are at 17 minutes out of 28. That's
Oh, okay. We're clipping right along. Yes,
Okay.
he's digging his little hole ever deeper.
That we are. All right, let us do the test. Make sure RJ's not damaged by all this, because everything we've heard so far from this guy conflicts with I don't know, RJ's life's work.
Yeah.
All right, here's the RJ test. Let's make sure he's still with us and fully. RJ, magnets. Okay, RJ's good. All right, moving on.
I can feel my mind, and it's not going yet.
Here we go.
They get buried. But if you're an old Earth creationist or you're an old Earth evolutionist, then there's got to be hundreds of thousands or millions of years between when the tracks are made and when the first instance of the track makers might be around. And that just doesn't make sense.
Now that is fascinating, Dr. Ross. I'm going to have you save that second one for a post. We got to talk a little bit more. If you want to hear more from Dr. Ross, we're going to do a post-show interview. You can join us at the Creation Today website, creationtoday.org, to learn more. I'm thrilled with what you guys at Liberty University are doing, and if you want to hear more about that,
he's just
thrilled.
I got a question for you. I don't know if anyone else will see it. If it's just me.
Okay.
But the way Eric Hovind is growing his beard, does it not look like the creepy Kid Ham beard from the side?
Oh my!
Well, he's looking in that contemporary unshaven hunk mode.
Yeah, he's
that's
going
very
for
very
likable.
popular among people that want to do that. So
Remember,
he's
Eric is
wanting to
going
look
for
trendy
likable.
for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Eric is going for likable. That's his shtick.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah. I mean, he's amiable compared to a fetid turd.
I just the way that like his beard is, it just reminds me of Kid Ham's.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I like the color of his shirt. Tie is perfectly fine. He's got a perfectly adequate haircut. The physical appearance of the man is completely irrelevant. It's the fact that he's a credulous git who has never investigated any of the science, and it's 2018. Nobody has an excuse apart from laziness or lack of internet access to be unable to find the technical science literature directly and openly, and the failure to do so is incompetence.
Really, the information is available. Absolutely, I agree. Oh, by the way, for the asked and answered,
James, we have to take into consideration that this video is not from 2018.
Ooh, what year is it from?
This was what, couple of years
16 or 17 at best.
Oh, well, there it is. All of the creation science is now coming to focus in the last year. I see now. There we go.
So now he understands.
And I'd like to point out another thing. I've heard Karis try to come in a couple of times, and we can't hear her. So Karis,
it's okay.
I mean,
I can hardly hear me either.
If all she's got to do is buzz, and trust me, I will make everybody else clam up so that she doesn't have to talk loud.
My voice is like disappearing.
I appreciate you making we all appreciate you making the effort, even though you're not feeling well. So, all right. Oh, Cap has something to add.
Yeah, it's a comment from the chat.
Okay.
It's Crypto. Crypto's at it. He looks like a Jehovah Witness. That said, I think it says that same, but I think it's supposed to be that said. My wife hasn't touched me. My wife hasn't touched me. I never 15 years look on his face.
No,
supposed to be.
It's supposed to be same. He says he's like a Jehovah's Witness. That same. My wife hasn't touched me in over 15 years. Look on his face.
Okay, yeah,
that works.
It's just like Crypto. Just
we should. You know what? We should set that for the screen. We didn't really clarify. In the Discord server, there is now a screen capture channel.
Oh, I've been having fun with that.
X, I can't wait to see. But when you put in a screen capture, make sure you put in some context, put some, where it was from and why you think it deserves to be ridiculed. All right.
I think I figured out a better thing. Rather than having battleship apologetics, it'd be a little more accurate if he had dreadnought apologetics, or maybe trireme apologetics would be even more apposite.
Triremes.
I really thought you were going to go with tricycle apologetics because that's about
No,
the
I wanted to
mentality
stick
of his
to boats.
audience.
You
Who
want to keep it nautical. Keep it nautical, right, RJ?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. At least the theme it there. And how often do you get to say trireme in a discussion with a creationist? I mean, honestly.
Actually, I have not gotten to use that word since, believe it or not, some Christmas presentation I had to do as an altar boy because somebody discovered I had the voice as an altar boy, so I had to be on the microphone for just about everything, and it was about the something about the triremes being sent thundering out of Rome, and I didn't sound thunderous enough. But that's the last time I got to use the word triremes.
I'd like to.
Oh well, there we go. So it's a blast
attention.
from the past. You get to see a Roman galleon, which is a little after the trireme thing, but it's the same thing. You know, they row quickly and then they get tired. In Ben Hur.
Indeed, Karis, you were trying to interject. Please go ahead.
I was only saying I'd like to direct everybody's attention to Skydog saying something very profound about the T-Rex.
Okay.
Oh, yes, we discovered T-Rexes couldn't masturbate. Boy, were they pissed off.
Maybe that's why they went around destroying everything.
That's why they were in such a mood. That little hand, they couldn't.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
they
the
tried
little
to destroy the
hands, they
ark.
couldn't get down there and all that. Yeah, it's a bunch of very perturbed, psychologically troubled T-Rexes. Yeah, that would account for it.
Oh my.
Oh my, indeed.
How did
All right.
mate?
And
By the way, Karis, I saw your screen caps. Do you think I should Photoshop something in Eric's hand in the screen cap you made?
Oh my.
Maybe you should Photoshop his hand being really small like a T-Rex, and he can be,
I have these big hands and no arms. I'm not sure how well this plan was thought out, Master.
All right.
Master?
Well,
let us.
I'll say this. I mean, there is nothing in there, but he has his hand in kind of a circular motion. So, and it looks like he's doing something.
All right. On that note,
it's gone for being invisible.
Cap. I already know he's doing something. I think the Holy Spirit is about to enter him.
Or leave.
Let's leave
All
it
right.
at that.
Moving on.
Yes.
Moving on.
By the way, Si, are you
Yes?
going to show these screen caps at the end of the stream, maybe?
Well,
So
they'll all be in the. They're all in the Discord
Yeah, they're all
server.
in the Discord. So
Everybody
anyone
knows
can
how
see
to hop in
yeah,
there.
but for the people who are watching, if we're referring to this, we're going to look like the Bible, referring to stuff that isn't there.
Well, no, we're referring
Heck,
to it on the
it's
Discord
part
server.
of the tradition. Why shouldn't we play?
We're referring to stuff that's on the Discord server where it actually happens to be, as
Yeah.
a resource for any that wish to make use of it. And Peter, I actually look forward to you modifying some of the images to your liking.
Okay.
So we're attempting to sow discord.
Exactly, because Peter's got that skill.
I'll try and do my best.
All right. Fine.
Let people make some suggestions in Discord to what they would want to see happen to the pictures.
That works. And okay, I will put the one prohibition. You can't include anything that Anthony Riley presently owns. How's that? Anyway, if nobody gets that reference, just Anthony Riley purple. A simple search should bring it up for you. Okay, here we go.
You could have a little cartoon bubbles where you'd be talking about how far he thinks that the battleship can fire its shells.
Indeed. Alrighty. On that note, let us. We were making good progress up till now. We better move on. Here we go.
Up until then, yeah.
Oh God, Brian. Referring to the T-Rex, so we know what color at least the balls were. Blue.
Lovely.
It's canonical.
Here we go.
So we'll see you there at creationtoday.org.
Commercial time.
Evolutionists employ dating methods which consistently date objects as millions and even billions of years old. Creationists, on the other hand,
Yeah.
quite rightly spend a lot of time showing the inconsistencies and improvable presuppositions that undergird such
We
evolutionary
do that by
us
leaving
about
out
it.
most of the data and
Why
lying
exactly
like
is it
pieces
that
of shit.
creationists teach that the Bible allows for only 6,000 years or so of history?
RJ, come on.
In this
Don't
Creation
lie
Today
about them.
commentary,
Because
Paul
even
Taylor
shit
gives
is
a
more
full
honest than
explanation
these
of
guys
the
are.
biblical
Ooh,
calculation
Paul
of the age of
Taylor.
the
You know,
earth.
actually, there's about 3
To
different
order this
Paul Taylors
downloadable
in the
book,
creationism
visit us
community,
at the
so they
Creation
should
Store,
specify which of the loony Paul Taylors they're actually relying on.
www.creationstore.org.
Planning your next vacation? Why
Yeah.
not make it a creation vacation with the
Why
help
not?
of our new
Yes.
website?
And tell us where the flood deposit
visitcreation.org.
is there
Here
in
you'll
that
find
piece of
many
scenery.
activities from museums and science centers to caves and canyons, all
you know-
teaching the truth about our great creator. Why wait? Go to
Look at all the strata
visitcreation.org
that can't be
today
formed in
to
the
begin
flood.
planning.
I would
your
love to. Is it
creation
wrong? I
vacation.
want to go on some of those trips
You know,
just to go in while I'm on the tour and go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
I was
Yeah,
just
well,
thinking.
there are competing things in Grand Canyon. You've got both the NCSE, which at least up until recently would do annual trips down the Grand Canyon to look at it from a science point of view. But creationists also have little adventures in there, and theoretically, you could buy on one of these things and go down and snark, and they probably would throw you overboard.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And we have, it's a good thing we have this buzzer thing because Karis doesn't have to yell. Karis has buzzed in. Karis, please.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
From the chat, there is a question that I must ask to RJ.
Mm-hmm.
Did T-Rexes have nut sacks?
We've never found the details of that. If you were looking at them, I'll try to answer this seriously here. The scrotums and that kind of crap is typical of mammals, and the dinosaurs were not mammals; they were diapsids. So you'd have to
'Cause
look
I've
more
never seen a
in your
lizard with a
Archosaur
nut sack.
bunch. So I'm sorry if I'm going to be taking a snarky question and turn it into actually a science discussion.
No, actually,
The fascinating thing about
I wasn't
dinosaurs
being
in
snarky,
general
actually.
is their
I was-
giant size make it a legitimate puzzle as to how some of them did it. And this is especially true for extremely large sauropods, and it's also somewhat true for a lot of the bigger theropods. Smaller ones theoretically could with a little bit easier, but the bigger ones are sometimes pushing the boundary layers. And because a lot of the soft tissues, well, any of the soft tissues, aren't actually preserved, you can't quite work this out. So there's a great deal of purient speculation on the part of professional paleontologists in this rarefied area.
Well, if
a
it's.
couple bronto, like something like
Hold
a
on.
couple brontos, which I know technically didn't exist, I believe, right? But theoretically, if they were doing it, and one of them fell off, wouldn't they like risk stabbing themselves with a tree or something?
RJ, I have another question because you're referring to soft tissue. So
You beat me to it, aren't you?
no T-Rexes have been fossilized with a hard-on.
Well, we have to remember that we mammals and we branch of mammals are kind of wacky in that most animals have a pubic bone. And so they have a thing that gives them an automatic hard-on because they don't want to dilly-dally and waste around things. So the interesting thing in human evolution, where we've developed one that doesn't have that and uses blood engorgement, this is getting X-rated, man, actually goes into it. And there's a whole side issue of the biology of procreation from that end. And then, of course, you have the different kinds that are, when you get farther back before vertebrates and that, you have ones that fertilize the eggs not through boinking, but by the female lays the eggs down, the male goes by, drops some stuff down, and they say bye and never see you again. Or the female will sometimes eat the male as a resource, like the insects often do.
What if they do it like a duck, where the duck, like, I mean, a T-Rex kind of shoots it like a bazooka or something?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't. There are probably complex ways around it. Like the fascinating thing about the just show on butterflies on I think Nova or Nature yesterday, that butterflies do it end to end. Their little nozzles at the back end connect up, and they do it while flying, which is an amazing thing. And sometimes they can stay hooked together there for like hours. Some of them are very tenacious in that area. There's a whole side issue of oh my, yes. There's a whole side issue about why that's so. In areas where potentially you have randy animals that will mate again, and cheat on you, and the new sperm can flush out the old sperm, so suddenly you've hijacked the babies that way. And insects that want to protect against that will tend to stay attached as long as possible to prevent any competitors from coming in and sweeping the field. There's a whole book on the sex lives of animals. I think it's called Sister Tatiana's Book of Sex Advice, where she treats it like a lovelorn column, and it's just hilarious. That I
This
strongly
one
recommend
X-rated
you
very
find that one.
quickly.
And it's all.
I said this got X-rated very quickly.
Yeah. Well, ain't nature wonderful? Red in tooth and claw. I bet you won't get that on a Eric Hovind show.
Odds are.
Well, would a pig have a corkscrew-shaped pelvic bone?
Oh my!
There are as many things in the animal kingdom as you could possibly imagine in this area, and so it's a matter of to be blunt, one size does not fit all in the sex procreation department, even among animals.
Okay, I was going to say,
Ajay, I think we need to ask Jackson to do a dinosaur sex video. He already did a whale sex
on
video.
Whale sex, yeah.
So and there's another thing I wanted to point out.
We got the dog bark. We got the dog bark.
And there's another thing I wanted to point out in the chat. Jason just said, Karis knows what's up. I think there's a pun in there somewhere. I'll go look.
Oh my!
I'm sure there is, and if you want to go hunting for it, you can.
All righty. And that's okay. First off, no imitate. I did not issue the dog bark. We have not varied too far off topic.
Oh, that was a faux pug. That was a pseudo pug.
Someone is impersonating Buster. There shall be none of that. All right. On that note,
sorry, my question was new idea for somewhere on the Discord server. The audience can go and pick out a highlight of the show and then people can submit different things that they think would be the highlight of the show, and whichever one gets the most votes wins. Just to kind of see who can come up with the best highlight.
You're just trying to make me buy more giveaways for people, aren't you?
No need for a prize. It's just a fun thing that people can do. No giveaway. It's just
I like giving out prizes actually. All right. On that note, I will, as interesting as I find that concept, let us move on. And I'll tell you, this visit creation.org. I'm gonna look into that and see how closely spaced these things are, because remember, it's a brand new Indian motorcycle just itching to go buzzing around the country. I think that would kick ass. Stopping at these places.
There are dozens of little creation museums. There are several around in my neck of the woods, in Idaho and Montana and all the rest that are in some of the Southwest and that. So usually mom and pop operations, diligent old creationists who want to purvey everything to the youngins, and then some of them graduate enough to where they manage to buy a little section in an old strip mall or something like that. And of course, the ICR has been around long enough that they're building a big thing. And of course, Ken Ham, with his multiple museums, he's in the big league.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my! Are there
There's
puns
one out
starting?
in Branson. If you go up through there, that they, from what I've heard and seen from other people, is they use phony Dr. Boz footprint, like the dinosaur with the human footprint. Like they had that photo and display, like say, "Ha! See, humans and dinosaurs live together," even though it is as fake as nowhere even close to what something would actually look like in that instance. It is so fake, it's not even funny.
All right, am I imagining things, or have the puns begun? Doubting Thomas has got fallacious reasoning. Look at the spelling. Look at the spelling.
Yes, with a PH. Doubting Thomas. Oh my heavens!
Nicely done. All right, we should probably continue, or just screw it and everybody go to hell to sleep. But nah, we better finish up. We do have obligations. All right, here comes more foolishness.
I was just happy that you gave me a little present of putting
It's
an Eric
time for
Hovind
Science and
dinosaur
Scripture with Eric and Ben, here on Creation Today.
Today we're talking about inertia.
What hurts you?
Inertia.
What if I slap you in the face? Will that hurt you?
That would hurt.
Okay, both of these guys deserve a slap. That doesn't even count as puns.
But that's it. We need to talk about inertia. Inertia is the idea of an object either staying in motion if it's in motion or staying still if it's still, unless it's acted on by an outside force. This bowl is not going to move by itself unless somebody acts on it. Correct. You just put
and
it
then
in
it'll
motion.
keep going unless
Karis
someone
buzzed.
stops.
Oh, Karis has a buzz. Karis, please go ahead.
It's more of a comment. Eric really needs to come out of the closet already.
All right. Good
and
enough.
really, chartreuse shirt.
All right. And let us continue. Here we go.
It or gravity or something.
Correct.
Like that.
In this case, friction. So what I've got to do to represent, to help us understand inertia is I had to bring out the old ball and chain.
This looks like the chain that you use on like your fan or something.
It is.
Like that. Yeah.
You can never tell what speed the fan's on, but this is exactly what it is. It's 100 feet long, and it represents a polymer molecule, a whole bunch of molecules put together.
So we're going to get some inertia going on these things.
Okay. So I'm going to put one end of the beads right over here. If I act on this with an outside force and I lift it up.
And that outside force is?
Me. And
Actually,
then
it's
gravity pulling it down.
Okay.
I got to pull it up, and then gravity is going to pull the beads down, and they will literally pull themselves.
Peter, you're up.
Yeah. I would now. This is a good moment to send out a caution to everyone, because we've gotten to a point where it's become very sexual, and now we have a video with Eric playing with beads. I don't know if I like where this is going.
All right.
So,
all right.
It's not pearls, and it's not in the form of a necklace. So I think
This is cornyware sex.
Okay, let's get back to it here. Moving on.
I just have one warning to give, though. Warning: creationists attempting science. This won't end well.
Indeed, or somehow will science. Therefore, God. Let's see.
Yeah, well, they could theoretically bring up Galileo and Newton as religious people. That would be a not uncommon trope for creationists.
Not the first time we've heard that one. All right, so we've got the chain moving here. Here we go.
To the bowl is
at some points, yeah. Wow, that just and it goes.
Oh my God, is Hovind the Younger circling the bowl?
Yeah, once it starts going, unless we.
Hey, I know this.
There you
outside
go.
force.
Outside force. You just did it. That's exactly right.
You know, as I was watching that chain go so quickly, I feel like our culture is doing the same thing. That we're descending, a Christian culture is descending.
Oh dear, there, boy, that took them a long time to jump off of the bridge.
Tornado, you're up in the buzz. Go right ahead.
You guys have completely ruined it. You've completely ruined what would otherwise be an awesome scientific moment. Completely ruined it. I am ashamed of you, Hovens.
Indeed. Hefkar, you are next up. Please proceed.
They just went from a conversation about inertia to a conversation about culture.
Yep.
What the fuck?
That was apparently all of that was just a demonstration that stuff was going down, and therefore our culture has gone down. I guess that was
no science education involved, just a trick to lead into the apologetics.
That was the somewhat tenuous link between the before and after.
Somewhat tenuous? I have never seen such a tenuous link in my life. That could not keep my aged grandmother connected up.
I wouldn't quite call it
in any way, shape, or form. It would be that frail of a connection.
All right, and I think we have Cap waiting to comment. Cap, please proceed.
Not only is it a talk about the culture, which just has no business being in this talk here, but also it's a very subtle persecution complex narrative of like, oh, the culture's going because they hate God and Christian. I guarantee you that is where they're going with that.
Yeah,
they always go that
obviously.
route.
Indeed.
Dogs and cats living together.
Anarchy.
Mass hysteria.
Absolute anarchy going on here. And speaking of a lack of anarchy, apparently this whole buzzer thing is working, because remember what I said a little while back? Oh, looks like Cap is waiting to comment. When have we ever heard Cap wait to comment? So apparently...
why should I have to wait? I'm the captain here. I'm the captain.
Well, he usually waits if you start threatening him.
All right.
I've already been threatened before the hangout even started. I was threatened to be booted. So.
The pre-show threat. All right, and we
Yeah.
have Peter has buzzed in. Apparently, he has something to
Yeah,
add as well.
I have another question for Karis. Karis, can you please screenshot this one because I think he's explaining how big it is now.
See, I was going with fish story,
Just
but leave it to you guys.
I wasn't talking about fish. I was making an add-on to the earlier screen cap Karis made.
Aha.
Well, actually, if they were describing whale testes, he would really be much too small.
Indeed.
No, Peter.
Don't
They
forget
aren't talking
testes.
about how big it is. He is showing him how he wants to grab his hips tonight.
All right,
at
that's
that.
enough. That is enough. Moving on. That's enough. Here we go.
Unless we act with an outside force, it's going to be impossible to stop this downward trend. Wow. But I was encouraged by 1 John chapter 5, verse 4, where the Bible says, "For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory." This is the thing that stops it, that overcometh the world, even our faith. Wow. Trusting God, believing what He says, is that outside force that's going to stop the downward trend in our culture.
All right, so let's see it. Make the chain go back up. All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. Pray for the chain to go up.
Indeed.
Yeah, and if they're going to follow God's word, can they please turn themselves into their local police department? Because if you follow God's word, you need to be put in jail for a long time.
There are a lot of questionable rules involved in there. That is true.
Technically, I have to be killed because there have been occasions where I worked on either a Saturday or Sunday at a fireworks store.
Yeah, and I wonder how many of them are wearing mixed fabrics or have eaten shrimp.
Indeed.
Wait,
And-
shrimp?
Indeed.
Yeah, shellfish. Both of them are wearing a belt.
Forbidden, long fork.
Oh yeah, and RJ, both of them are wearing belts, and the belts consist of leather and metal. Two different materials that they are wearing.
Shocking what we're seeing
This
on
is,
this video.
Since biblical times, everything has just gone completely to hell. Look at, you've got people here who are not really following the rules that were set down by the Most High. I am ashamed to see such
and
degeneracy.
Crypto pointed out and shaved.
Indeed. Oh, I think Hannah is leaving.
Bye, Hannah.
Bye.
Bye, Hannah.
Hey, Hannah.
Does she? I see folks. Freighter says good night. Good night, Hannah. If you're heading out, I don't see where she says she's leaving. I can only assume.
Oh.
God damn it! There was a good comment in here that I thought was hilarious, and I seem to have missed it. Something about. Well.
I thought that this. I don't remember who said it, but I
Our
thought
minds are going. We can feel it.
mixing two different materials thing was two specific materials. I think it was linen and wool or something like that. I thought it was two specific things.
Is that the case?
Yeah, and God didn't specify anything about polyester. We are completely at sea on that.
Yeah, it does mention linen and wool, but that's if I remember correctly, and Karis could probably correct me on this if I'm wrong, but that from what I've understood it to be is more of like a example of what it would be, but it does say do not mix two fabrics.
Okay. And correction needed. Hannah's not leaving. I saw somebody saying goodnight, Hannah. I assumed that I missed it. She says she's not leaving. Excellent. Glad you're hanging out with us, Hannah. Excellent.
Into that, I don't know.
And Cap, if you already know that it's talking about the two different fabrics, how come you bring up metal?
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Then in that case, leather and metal still isn't a problem.
I think it was an example.
And leather isn't a fabric.
Oh my, you guys are just falling on him.
I hate to disappoint.
It's cowhide.
Alrighty. On that note, let us continue. God, we're making progress.
Okay, no, excuse me. It does just say wool and linen. Excuse me. I stand corrected. I thought it was just two fabrics, but okay, I do. But guess what? They don't have the four corner tassels, so they are still either way. They're in violation of clothing.
Well, no. As I understand that rule, the what were you referring to, Cap? The shirts.
The tassels.
The tassels are only required on a shirt that has corners. That I know.
Oh,
that's
well,
the rule for that.
Air quotes reasonable.
Yeah, if you have a standard shirt that has a little loopy thing and it just kind of rounded, no tassels needed. But if you have a shirt with corners, 4 corners, then you must have the tassels. That rule I know about.
Do the corners of the collar count?
No. It's for some reason it
Okay,
seems to only be at the
actually,
bottoms.
they like the King James version, right? I just looked up the KJV of the mixed fabrics.
Okay.
It is a guideline. It is an example. It says, "Thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, as of linen and wool together." So, as of would be an example. Like,
And diverse sorts.
is
Diverse sorts
anything.
makes it more than
Is
just
anything.
fabric too. So
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
so that the leather and metal would.
So they need to kill themselves.
We were just Cap. We were just making fun of you referring to
Hank,
metal and
hey,
leather
Eric,
as fabric.
Hank, kill yourself.
Yeah,
Hey, Tornado! It's not like I was talking or anything. Hey, Karis has buzzed. Karis, you're up.
I'm just wondering if now would be a good pug bark time.
You know what? We will issue it. That is not a bad idea. We have varied a little bit off the track.
4 corners on the other one.
There we go. Pug has indicated it's time to move on. All right, here we go.
Yourself at home and think about this spiritual principle for our country.
I'm going to see if I can get it back going the other way. Oh.
Can Christians believe the Bible?
That was it? That was it?
That was it?
That was it?
Wow, that was really inspiring in a pointless and tendentious sort of way.
All right, hold on. Let me jot down the information content we just experienced. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. BBs will fall under gravity. Technically, it's not really telling you anything about inertia or gravity. And then they're going to conclusion jump to the idea that people should kind of believe stuff.
Yes, exactly.
That was disappointing, and considering our expectations for this video, that's impressive.
Yeah, pretty low.
Yeah.
Or you know what? They get a drink just for that, not telling us anything and wasting that period of time.
Yeah.
Peter has buzzed in. Peter, what do you got?
Yes, because before everyone forgets, the video just ended with a question: can Christians believe the Bible? The short answer, no, because I haven't come across one that actually does everything it says. So pretty much we can say they don't.
Yeah.
And it's a darn good thing they don't.
They can't because Jesus would technically be considered a God above God, and God said you can't do that. So, I mean, technically following Jesus would make you follow a false God according to your own God. So,
well, don't they get around that with the whole cloudy Trinity, not Trinity? They're all the same God, even though Jesus. Even though Jesus was asking.
You can't square the circle; you can trinitize it.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. And looks
so
like
we're on to circles.
Yeah, so it would seem. All right, seems like we're on to a new segment of foolishness here. Let's see what he's got.
From the very first word,
that's a commercial.
This new study, The 6 Days of Genesis by creation speaker Paul Taylor, will help Christians understand exactly what happened during the creation.
Anybody thinking of the movie Christmas Story? Son of a bitch, a commercial or whatever. That's not the exact quote, but
and why it is foundationally important to believe it. You'll enjoy every minute of Paul's unique presentation style, providing scientific facts, solid biblical teaching, and a little British humor. For more information, visit us at www.creationtoday.org.
The British accent will make the claptrap sound so much more
Creation
palatable.
Network highlight is Mount St. Helens Creation Center of Silver Lake, Washington. Through museum exhibitions, presentations, and field trips into the blast zone of Mount St. Helens, your guide, Paul Taylor, explains how the recent eruptions offer strong evidences in support of the biblical record of Earth history. Specifically,
Evidences, yeah. Oh, Hethgar has something to say. Hethgar, you're up.
Well, I buzzed after already saying it, but evidences, yes. Oh,
Good
and
enough.
the Mount St. Helens recent eruptions prove it.
Yeah, not a lot of.
Yes, as somebody who shoveled Mount St. Helens off of my driveway and visited the blast zone in July of 1980, the moment they opened it up, and has been visiting it periodically ever since, I take umbrage at people who try to hijack the Mount St. Helens episode to support the stupid flood model because it doesn't match at all.
Indeed.
Don't they try to use shit from that to prove that the Grand Canyon could have been carved in an hour?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a little itty bitty mini canyon that was formed by some of the water flows when the Toutle River was backed up, and then they would have to open it up and siphon out. So you had these little, they called it mini Grand Canyons, which, it was like what you could do with your garden hose on a slightly bigger scale in your backyard. But it didn't stay there. It didn't turn into rock. And of course, we know incised V-shaped canyons are not formed that way. They're formed because of the headwaters changing and so forth and so on. So there's a whole program on that. So nothing whatsoever. If it has anything at all of relevance, it's about the fact that pyroclastic flows can produce tremendous damage, and pyroclastic flows are the reason why polystrate fossils aren't evidence for the flood either, that they're because of volcanic eruptions. So you've got a bunch of stuff that they just are missing the data.
The other part of
There's
that
something I
too
haven't heard.
Somebody got the show on a live feed or something where we're getting feedback?
Maybe somebody
I'll
liking the
stop.
headphones?
But RJ, I was gonna say, if you take umbrage, are you gonna leave any for us?
Yeah, I take all of my umbrage and I leave it on my own doorstep. I don't share umbrage ever.
Oh my.
Okay.
Karis has buzzed. Karis, what do you got?
I gotta go.
Oh, well.
Okay.
okay.
Take care.
We thank you very much for joining us.
Chamomile tea and stuff.
Indeed.
I might still be in the chat, but I can't keep being in the live stream.
Understandable.
Okay.
And we appreciate you making the effort.
Get well soon.
Thanks.
Good night.
Okay. Okay. See you, Karis.
Thanks, Peter. Night.
Alrighty.
I also want to add
Yes?
that the comparison they're making with using the St. Helens stuff to compare to the Grand Canyon is they're completely missing out that the Grand Canyon is carved from rock, while those Mount St. Helens things were carved from volcanic ash, which is significantly softer.
Indeed.
Yeah. As I know from shoveling it off my driveway.
Indeed. And it erodes a little bit more quickly than rock, I believe.
Yeah. It's almost like time is a factor for the same reason that you can't turn a cake recipe into a cake just by jacking the heat up. Some things take time.
As fun as that is.
Speaking of cakes, I actually managed to somehow pack a whole bunch of spices into a skillet when I was a little kid.
Okay. All right.
And it made literally a giant patty of spices. Mom was pissed.
Okay. And
well, actually, you're probably way too old to remember, but there was a hilarious episode on a science program, and I can't remember who was the physicist that was involved in it, but they got Julia Child to cook a recipe in the oven at like 4,000 degrees or something. It was just ridiculously high temperature. It basically reduced everything to just a carbon chunk, and it was there to illustrate about the process of what atoms were and all that kind of stuff. It was sweet.
I see.
Well,
All right.
sweet for an entirely different reason, but still.
We are within 7 minutes of the end of this nonsense. You guys been see just maintaining order has gotten us through much more than we would have on a standard movie night. So let us continue. Here we go. Wait a minute. I thought Squirrel left. There he is, right there. All right, moving on.
Either that or it's a duplicate.
Could be.
Mount St. Helens Creation Center?
Oh, no.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Oh, Silver Lake, Washington. Yeah, I think that's down. Of course, it's outside of the area. Visiting Mount St. Helens is a challenge because they haven't just made roads willy-nilly. So there are about 3 or 4 different observatories in Mount St. Helens, and to get to one to the other, you just can't drive immediately. You've got to basically leave the whole park, go around the site, and come back in again. So it's a laborious thing to go to, but well worth the thing because it's an amazing science monument.
All right, Cap, you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to read 2 comments. One
right
from
ahead.
Doorknob Head and one from Blob Darkness.
Got it.
7 minutes equals 40 minutes left. And Blob Darkness is, oh, look, it's the chipmunk kind.
Yes.
No, that's Eric Hovind. We already established that.
That we did.
Yes, in chipmunk ears.
All right. Let us move on.
Global flood catastrophe of Noah's Day. Visit them online at nshcreationcenter.org. Check out creationnetwork.org to discover more of the Creation Museums and outdoor creation field trips available to you.
Gotta yell drink, Peter.
Oh, drink. Sorry.
Peter, I see you on the list. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I stepped away from my computer a little bit, so I was a little late. Regarding the comment of the chipmunk kind. I don't know if any of you are aware of Kent Hovin's kind test that is absolutely foolproof that a 5-year-old can answer. Anyone see the video that one blew up in his face on one of his latest streams regarding his talk with Aaron Ra, where he had a lot of squirrels up and asked the 5-year-old, "Are these the same animal?" And the kid said, "No." I think that pretty much was the best stream so far this year, and he'll never be able to top that.
Oh yeah, I don't know how his 5-year-old test failed.
Yeah, and he made a pretty long introduction up to it that was the ultimate test that was absolutely foolproof to distinguish a kind. And if a 5-year-old could do it, Aaron Ra should be able to do it. And then he had the 5-year-old look at the pictures and say, "Nope."
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. It was like a 4 or 5 minute introduction to it about like just I was like, oh boy, that's
Get wrecked, son.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I think the kid's about to be drowned in one of the lakes on Kent Hovin's compound now.
Doorknob Head wants a link to that. Doorknob Head wants a link to that. And let's see, Joachim Hovin's mind is that of a 4-year-old. Okay.
Donna, I don't have the link. I don't have the link handy, but go to Feist Rhino's channel.
Yeah.
He featured it in his last video.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. So yeah, you can find it there.
Nice. Okay. And on that note, let us plod on. Here we go.
You're watching Battleship Apologetics here on Creation Today.
Welcome back. We wanted to wrap up the show with 7 different evidences that the Earth is not billions of years old.
Ooh, goody.
To start off with,
what do you got, Tornado?
First off, it's pieces of evidence, not evidences. Secondly, these evidences, quote unquote, are most likely to be bullshit.
Maybe so.
Oh, I'm
or
sorry,
don't prove what they think it's
ship.
Yeah. What the hell happened to Tornado?
Sai, can you give me a wrench real quick so I can put the link in the chat?
You know, how the hell did that happen that you don't have a spanner already? I will fix that right up.
I haven't asked so far.
I try to get all of it. All right, say hi so I can see you in the screen so I don't have to go digging. I thought he was going to be a wise ass and say hi.
Hi. Hi.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Let us.
I was.
All right, you are spannered, young fella.
Yeah, I thought you were going to put something like "Don't give me a wrench" or something like that, Peter. That's what I thought you were going to do.
Alrighty. On that note, let us
say bye or something.
Let us continue and see what Eric's up to this time. I don't want to hit the play button. Yeah, all right, here it comes.
number one, there is.
What?
There was a little look on his face where he had his finger up and his eyes are almost closed. When the creation evidences are presented just right.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking of him going. So we already had the picture of the joint. It's like him going, "That's evidence there, man. May God fill you up."
Lovely. So it's Tommy Chong. Tommy Chong does religion. Okay, moving on.
Very little salt in the sea. About 458 million tons of sodium mixes into the ocean each year.
Already discussed and debunked.
Only 122 million tons, about 27%, is removed by other natural processes. So if seawater originally contained no salt, no sodium, and the sodium accumulated at today's rate, then today's ocean saltiness would be reached in just 42 million years. That's not even close to the 3 billion years.
Drink!
Tornado, you may have beat me to it. You may have beat me to it, Tornado. Go ahead.
Do you know where all that sodium came from?
Oh,
it came from the various clouds of the cloud of dust and gas that was formed around the sun because of other stars that had gone supernova before the sun to give us that sodium. That sodium was ensconced in the particles of rock and various things that had come down. And when the floor was no longer lava, there was tons of rock that could be easily dissolved.
That works. And the one I was going to say, see, I thought you beat me to it, but I still get to say mine, is he mentioned that number of years is not even close to, what did he say, a bunch of million, bazillion, whatever the hell he said.
3 billion.
It's also nowhere near 6,000. Now, is it? So that was the point I was going to bring up. And I believe, Cap, you
I will
have something.
put a link up on something that will discuss the ocean clock and all of that and why it's wrong.
Tornado missed one of the most prominent ways that salt flavor gets into the ocean. Think about it. Jackson Wheat did an entire video on this. Whales and dolphins prefer water sports.
Don't make me boot you out of here. All right. We are moving on right about now.
Cap, I think you broke Tornado.
Here we go.
Well, as long as it keeps him out of Kansas and doesn't destroy Kansas, we're good.
All right.
That's a different kind of tornado.
Moving on.
Shut up! Oh,
moving.
Damn it, Cap! Why?
On.
Because it's funny.
All right.
Well,
all right.
It's
this is the last. Here. There. Okay. Now did you get the freaking message? There we go.
No,
moving on.
Sorry.
No, he didn't. He's still talking. Son of a. All right. Moving on.
Evolutionists propose.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2. Very little sediment on the sea floor. Every year, water and wind erode 2 billion tons of rock debris from the continents and deposit them into the ocean. If sediments have been accumulated...
Oh, what do you got?
From Crypto, I want to hear where he made that claim, that Eric thinks that Jupiter is 6,000 years old after comparing it to a bowl of mac and cheese.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that too.
That sounds like science.
He made that claim.
Yeah, I would love to see that one. We need that one on movie night.
Well, he did the chain experiment. It sort of fits. All right, moving on.
Accumulating on the seafloor for 3 billion years old, the seafloor should be miles deep of sediment.
If everything stayed the same, continental drift. Get up to the speed. Heavens, science.
If it accumulated by slow and gradual means, that brings the Earth's age down to at least 12 million years old.
Also not 6,000.
But the receding floodwaters of the global flood could easily account for this, flushing the majority of these sediments off the continents rapidly.
That's a great one. So we went from 42 million down to 12 million.
Yes.
Try this one.
Okay.
Number 3, short.
Oh, Peter has something. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking over her, but did she just say that the flood account would make it would prove that the Earth is 12 million years old?
No. She was saying that she said that about the 12 million years, and then she said jumped into the flood account could do all this very quickly. She didn't really tie the two together, right? She sort of did some gliding from one uncomfortable subject to a nice comfortable subject that flood
and of
did
course no citations, nothing in their video to say where they're getting their information from, so nobody can check them out.
Indeed.
Also,
bad dog.
Drink.
All right, what do you got there? Tornado.
Short-lived comments. Short-lived. It appears to be you do not know what the definition of short is in the span of, say, Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet is not a short-lived comet. People have been seeing that for a very, very, very long time.
It's documented in a tapestry from about 1066.
We should
Yeah,
probably
so
let him.
You have to remember.
We should probably let him say it before we. I mean, yes, we see the title, but so that when he
but
does
yeah,
say
that's
the stupid thing, we'll just all yell drink and then immediately yell tornado because we'll go back to this comment that Tornado's making.
But
I
Tornado,
also want to.
you have to remember something. Oh, go ahead, Huskar.
I'll wait until he actually says it, but I do have
Okay.
something to add to it too.
All right.
But
I want
what
to see if he
Tornado
mentions the orc
said,
cloud.
he has to remember this. When it comes to intelligence, they got the short end of the stick.
Aha. Okay. So what you're saying is hit play.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Short-lived comets. According to all we observe, comets are not being formed today. Here's the problem.
Incorrect.
Every time a comet passes by the sun, the sun's heat evaporates much of the comet's ice and allows the dust and debris to be blown.
Heathcar has a drink call.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that even if he was right about comets being short-lived, which sure some of them are, but not all of them, there's no reason to think that we can't get new ones, which is another thing he just stated, which is just flat wrong.
Indeed. Okay. We will augment that counter as well then. Alrighty. And
That being said,
yes,
I am out of alcohol
no.
and have to work tomorrow, so I should probably get some sleep.
Oh yeah, you can't watch this stuff with no alcohol. Off you go there. And thank you for joining us. Thank you very much for joining us. And
Can I do another screen cap request? I can't screen cap at the moment, but this is a doozy.
all right, somebody grab it for him. And Heathcar, by the
Oh
way,
yeah.
in
There we
addition
go. He's got
addition-
the uh-oh face on.
in addition to thanking you for joining us, thank you for being one of our sponsors too. All right,
no problem.
And Sai,
yes,
I have to make a correction on something you said earlier about how drinks per minute call with the first video and this one. I think this one might have more drinks per minute than the other one might have. So I think this one might have outbeat it.
Well, maybe we'll have to compare it some later. Yeah. Remember, eventually we're going to take the score of all of these and find out.
Yeah,
who is the most woo infested?
This is more severe stupid. The other one was just laughable stupid. So
yes, I agree.
And Sai, just a question. I know you're a little bit itchy about it, but should we go to Jason's comment about the lunar thing?
No, just no. Let us move on with the stupid.
Wait. Isn't that basically...
Heathcar, I thought you were leaving.
Let's pass.
I know, I said I was leaving. But isn't that basically Nephilim Freeze theory about why there are craters on the moon?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Wait, really?
Yeah, look.
Yeah, he thinks water from the flood is shot out up to the, to the moon, and that's what caused the craters.
Yes,
water reached escape velocity and hit the moon.
Hit the moon in the face, and then it ran down the moon's face. Yes, exactly. Peter, go ahead.
I need to educate you a little bit. Bukkake is not water.
I know what I'm trying to keep this, I did my immature. I'm trying to see early I was trying to stay mature, then you guys drug me down to the immature level. Now I'm trying to bring the show back up to maturity.
All right.
And yes, I know who I'm surrounded by.
It's called an analogy.
Can we move on?
Yes, good
please.
idea.
Yeah. Let's move on before Jesus comes again.
Absolutely. Here we go. Moving on.
I was refraining from using the earth ejaculated water. I was refraining from that.
We understood that. And now let us move on. Here we go.
Blown off the comet. This is what forms the comet's tail. So, if comets are always losing matter every time they pass by the sun, how long can they last? You ready for this?
Okay.
Not more.
Oh, yes.
How long can they last? Well, could they go out to the Kuiper Belt and gather new material? Because that's basically all comets are. They're aggregated lumps of ice, dust, and rock. They're effectively dirty snowballs. So couldn't they just go back out to the Kuiper Belt, pick up some new material from the Kuiper Belt, then head back?
I've never heard that.
That big gas giant thing, Jupiter, that tends to perturb things and bring them inside the Earth's orbit.
Wait, Tornado, are you talking about comets growing back, or do you mean new ones coming in?
either way,
Right,
if you can get a comet out to the Kuiper Belt, you can actually.
I don't think they'd aggregate more. Do you? I mean, and I have not heard that. I could see us losing a comet.
You've got this huge sphere of material,
right,
surrounding the entire planet that are just a ring of icy material going around the entire planet. A comet comes along, picks up some of the material as it smacks into this stuff. It clumps together much like when you throw snowballs at another snowball, and then it could come back.
Right, I got your concept. And all. I just have never really heard of. I've never really heard of that being proposed.
Possible. We barely understand comets ourselves.
Well,
you got the Kuiper Belt, and then you got the Oort cloud, and they've now observed the Oort cloud with Hubble. So you've got more information available on that. Basically, you got all this junk that's farther out, and the big gas giants. Remember, the solar system is Jupiter plus debris. It acts as a gravitational attractor and a bender of things. And so over millions of years, they're going to constantly bring new little things in. And of course, we can say fairly that neither one of the people on the screen here have read any technical science papers or listened to anybody that's ever read any technical science papers on comets.
And I have to think,
pretty good chance.
I think Doorknob head for that question that I just thought of, or Doorknob. Who was it that posted that? Hold on, let me look at the live chat since I've got it up here.
All right.
Comets. That was Frater. Frater says that there's a very good chance that comets can collect new material that when they return to the Kuiper Belt.
Nice. I love doing this show.
So shout out to you, Frater.
Nicely done. All right, and we're coming up on the hour, the end of the second 2-hour segment. We better snap it up if we're going to get through this. We can make it. We don't have to do a chunk number 3. Here we go.
More than a few.
It would save me, Sai, because my mind is wandering off. We just had a topic that was a little bit controversial, and then James piling onto that with junk being farther out.
Okay.
Maybe it's the wrong time for me to be here.
All right, well, let's let this go, and we can wrap this up. We've got 3 minutes is nonsense left. Let's see what we got. Here we go.
Okay, we're chopping it down. Okay, number 4, carbon-14 in fossils, coal, and diamonds. We've all heard of the carbon-14 that the Earth is old, right?
I'm not sure, but I think RJ has something to say.
Yeah.
RJ, you're up.
Oh, that diamonds case, and she's got an oh face as well.
Oh my.
The problem with the diamonds is they misrepresent the sources blatantly. They suppress relevant information constantly. Andrew Snelling does this, and everybody that relies on Andrew Snelling does this. Nobody has ever managed to date a diamond at 6,000 years old, which it would be if the Earth were 6,000 years old. Instead, all they managed to find is the very most basic of background hum and stray readings from misread carbon-13s, etc., that when you feed them into the formulas, generates 80 to 90,000 years, which is off the scale. It's completely past the ability, which basically tails off at about 50,000 years. So nothing, absolutely nothing in what you are saying about diamonds and radiocarbon dating is valid, and you should be ashamed of yourself in 2017 to offer such twaddle that you've never bothered to fact check.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah.
And moving on.
Actually,
and I
carbon-14
can screen cap, and I just cut this
not
one.
Old. At least not as old as they say. Carbon-14 decays very quickly. Every 5,730 years, half of it will be gone. With this science, we know that after only a few 100,000 years, there should be no carbon-14 left. Yet carbon-14 has been detected in fossils. Fossils that are supposed to be hundreds of millions of years old. This is impossible. They can't even be more than a few 100,000 years old.
Man, we are
again not 6,000.
Chopping this thing down. Check out number 5, soft tissue in fossils.
Oh no!
Remember just a few episodes ago we talked with Mark Armitage. He discovered soft tissue in an unfossilized Triceratops horn. In 1999, Mary Schweitzer even discovered blood.
Uh-oh. Cap, you're up.
He just said it. He is strawmanning and lying about what Mary Schweitzer found in her discovery, and we know how it worked.
Strawman,
you are the strawman, and you are a liar.
Armitage, not Schweitzer.
Huh?
Yeah, he mentioned Schweitzer
The
after.
Triceratops horn, that's Armitage.
Right before I called drink, I was
Yep.
waiting for him to mention Schweitzer's name.
Yep.
And right when he said it, that's when I called it.
Yep. Alrighty. Moving on. Or does anyone else have anything to add? I see no other buzzes. That being the case, moving on.
Vessels in a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
That's
I know
easy
how to
for
say
you
what
to
his
say.
name is. Tyrannosaurus Rex thigh bone. This is great science proving that dinosaurs didn't live millions of years ago, only thousands of years ago, just like the Bible teaches.
Iron compound.
And number 6, rapidly decaying magnetic.
Drink.
Tornado, you're up.
Drink.
Tornado now.
Perhaps you have heard of the Chicxulub asteroid.
Okay.
Notice how we don't find any dinosaur fossils above the Chicxulub crater issue. Yet we find them all. Actually, they might be above it, but not by much.
No, there aren't any.
Okay.
Booyah! If they're not there, if they're not above the Chicxulub asteroid, and that happened about 65 million years ago, then there's a big fucking dent in your theory.
Well, of course, they don't allow the dating to be true. They don't allow the
Tornado.
stratigraphy to be true. They don't allow the paleontology to be true, and they don't bother studying any of the people who actually study it. Listen.
There's nice proof of this Chicxulub asteroid just off the Yucatan Peninsula.
Well, of course, but they'd have to read
crater.
the science data. They don't read the science data. Neither one of these read the science data. They're lazy bastards.
RJ, I have a question for you. Who are you gonna believe?
Make it quick.
Them or the evidence that's presented that's backed up by facts? I mean,
That they don't pay attention to.
Thank you very much.
Who are
Moving
you
on.
gonna believe?
Moving on.
Field. The Earth is surrounded by a magnetic field that protects living things from solar radiation. Without it, life cannot exist. That's why scientists were surprised to discover that the field was quickly wearing down.
Oh, no.
At the current
Incorrect.
rate, the field and therefore the
Okay. I'm augmenting the drink counter.
I hate the magnetic field claim.
All right.
That's just plain wrong. Sure, the magnetic field may weaken and do polar shifts and all that, but it's a very slow and arduous process. It's not anything like what they're claiming. And you know what supplies the magnetic field? The spinning dynamo of the Earth's core because of the rotation of the frickin' planet.
Indeed, and it's not a linear. They're proposing it as a linear progression. All right. Yeah,
and of course that would not allow you to explain the geomagnetic reversals that we can detect all through the geologic column that no one on that panel had ever bothered to look into because they don't read anybody outside of the limited creationist that they copy credulously without fact-checking.
So
and look at the face. He's on to me.
Yeah, caught. That's the caught. I'm caught. They know this is crap.
You know, these are all traditional creationist myths that were presented in creationism in the 1960s, and they just can't give them up, other than the soft tissue stuff that's only coming up in the last 20 years. But the other ones are just standard Henry Morris fare, and they just can't give them up. They're crack addicts on these things.
Indeed. All right. And on that note, let us move on. Wait, did I not augment the drink counter? I don't think I did.
Did we break it?
No. There we go. I didn't. I don't remember hearing that little ding when this drink was called.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did you put it
on.
just plain wrong on that one there?
Yeah. Okay, we'll need that. You're right. Good point. Okay, and moving on.
Did you? I don't think you put my straw man on there with the logical fallacy, but
yes, I did. I did.
It had another logical fallacy. There's been enough logical fallacies there to float a battleship, to borrow a pun.
I'll add the logical fallacy, but I remember showing the straw man when you brought it up.
Yeah, you did. No, I was mean. Yeah, did you update the counter? That's what I was referring to.
You are quite correct, sir.
And the straw man reads more technical literature than Eric does.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Than 20,000 years old.
Wow. So we started at 4.6 billion, went to 42 million, 12 million, a few 100,000. We're at 20,000 now. Number 7. You ready for this one?
Ready.
The Bible. Yes. I love this. This is my favorite one.
Oh, no.
While these scientific facts...
Wait, no, let him say something before you call drink, Tornado. He hasn't said anything
Yeah, he's
yet.
Going to... this is a foregone conclusion.
Don't worry, he'll bury himself. Here we go.
We're talking about show the Earth can't be billions of years old, as the modern science suggests. They aren't the ultimate authority. We have a record of history from the beginning. The Bible clearly teaches that the Earth is around 6,000 years old.
Okay, go ahead, Tornado. If you
Well,
want.
listen to the words of Jesus in
Use
Mark
the
10:6.
Bible to... You cannot use the Bible to prove the Bible. What part of this shit don't you understand?
Does anybody remember what a nice young?
I think he's
circular argument.
Does anybody remember what a nice, polite young fellow Tornado was before he started hanging out with us? We have just destroyed the poor fella. All right.
He was on here before I got on, so yeah. But I have
think
a
a circular argument
drink
counts as a
call.
logical fallacy.
You know what? That is quite correct. All righty. Let us augment. Very nice. And
I have one. The whole Bible, the history of the Bible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's just a whole just plain wrong in and of itself.
All right, good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to make it under the 2 hour for the second one, so you two won't have to work. All right, moving on.
But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female.
Uh-oh, is there some bigotry coming? Is there some bigotry coming? Let's see what we got.
Man, you know, Jesus really is the final authority. Anybody that can predict his death and predict that he's going to rise from the dead, whatever he says, I'm going to believe him.
Keep us posted.
Oh, it hurts. The stupid hurts.
Yes, it does.
So I just have to trust that when Jesus says he made Adam at the beginning and then gives us the dates in Scripture that add up to be about 6,000 years old, I'm trusting what Jesus said.
Cap.
Yeah. Adam, Jesus did not create Adam or Eve. That was God the Father. That was Yahweh. That was who Jesus talked to, not Jesus himself.
Aren't they starting to pitch? Aren't they starting to pitch
wrong
up to Jesus?
They're starting to pitch that Jesus was actually around the whole time, though, aren't they now?
Yeah, even though that is completely wrong and not even accurate scripturally.
You're expecting people who can't get the age of the Earth accurate to make sense of texts written in the Bronze Age that have enough interpretations that you could drive a truck through?
You're right. That is crazy.
Well, when they claim them as fact, I expect them to actually, be able to understand them.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, and
you're talking to Hogan here.
On that note,
I know. I know. I have too much respect for Hogan that he doesn't respect himself.
Time constraints.
Oh, I have no respect for Hogan.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Hey, if you still have questions about the age of the Earth, I got to be honest, I don't blame you. Culture is saturated with this old Earth idea. It's in the books we read, it's on TV, in museums, at the national parks, and in the magazines. You can't get away from it, but you also don't have to believe it. If you want to do some further research on the age of the Earth, you can use
research. Go ahead, Tornado.
You just use the words research when you yourself have done none.
Quite true.
Yes, I observe him doing none.
Just plain wrong.
Absolutely. And this is going great. Here we go.
Our search engine specifically designed for you to give you trusted answers to your questions.
Yes,
just visit
answers we want you to think about and never fact check anything beyond it. Yeah,
well, thanks
use our
for
search
joining
engine.
us. We'd love to hear from you. Please send your comments to comments@creationtoday.org.
Or questions to questions@creationtoday.org. Have a great week.
All right.
Eric doesn't answer me.
Get blocked from this site.
I ask him all the time on Twitter on stuff, and he never replies to me. Apparently, we don't approve of questions if they're not the ones that can give the answers to.
Attending one of our live events and shopping online.
All right, well, that was really something, wasn't it? That's the end of this nonsense. Okay. On that note, if we blow through the plug and pug quickly, we may make it under the 2 hour limit for processing. Let's get about okay, Tornado, let us move quickly. Tell us how cool you are and what you do.
I am Tornado Pelt. I game, I debug horse beep on the internet.
There you go. Peter, tell us how cool you are and what you do.
I'm going to go for it. We have a channel where we talk to theists, among other stuff that we do. And since Karis is no longer here, there has been a question several times. If people want to listen to Karis's voice, maybe drop by on our channel. Gonna go for it on YouTube. Pretty much it.
Sounds good. All right. Cap, tell us how cool you are and what you do.
I'm Cap Brony. I do atheism videos. I also debunk theist claims and I try to look at more of the ones that are less debunked. And tomorrow at 8:30 Central Time, I have a Buddhist coming on my channel for an interview. So who knows how that's going to end up?
Cap.
Sounds good. Tornado, you got something to say?
Yes. Is he going to educate you in the electric power of Om?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how I could do a good bad pun, but you beat me to it.
Nicely done.
I don't know.
Okay. Anything more, Cap?
Nope, that's it.
All righty. Thank you very much. RJ, tell us how cool you are and what you do.
Oh, I'll even put my little websites crap up there. I'm the old RJ that's trying to smash creationism. My tip project is documenting the full range of anti-evolution literature. Apologia and USI and various other people know that I'm kind of knowledgeable on these things, and I'm very thorough and careful and fair. And I've got books out. You can find links to that at the website. I got a GoFundMe. Help! Everybody can help on that. I'd like to see more of the crowd there. I know there's more than 168 people on the planet who could be helping.
Indeed. Quite true. Andy's a kick-ass author. Let's not forget about that. Buy his books. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any final words for the known universe?
Actually, yes, I do.
Okay.
Eric Hovind, you are a piece of horse. Yay!
All righty. Yeah. Anybody else?
On a good day.
On a good day.
Nope.
All right. On that note, I think everybody knows what time it is.
Pug.
Bring on the pug. Here we go. Come on, Buster. Say goodnight to everybody.
Hi, Buster.
He's a cute little pug.
Golden or better.
Buster says, thanks for watching. Buster says, like us, subscribe.
Guy.
Yeah.
Patreon.
Is saying Goldens are better than pugs, is that enough to get you booted?
Patreon.com.
Or am I still safe?
It's like a waste of effort to boot anybody now.
Okay,
anyway.
so, yeah. So I gotta beat the 15-minute boot threat or the 20-minute boot threat, before the show, whatever it was.
That is the first time that's happened.
For another edition of Indiana Pug and the Raiders of the Lost Park.
Tornado, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it like this. Tune in next time to watch Indiana Pug and the Raiders of the Lost Park. Day by time, day by day.
Nicely done.
Far away from poodles. Buster says.
Look what Fino says. He's got, I am going to devour your soul, and you will thank me afterwards, eyes.
He's got it, Fino, yeah.
Well, let's just hope people like my Batman.
Obey the pug. Obey the pug. And I think the pug wears a fedora very attractively.
Indeed. As if you can get a pug. As if you can get a pug to stand still that long.
In fact, yes, any pug's going, what the hell are you trying to do? Put clothes on me, you shameless.
Really, give me a hat, I'm gonna eat it. That's what's gonna happen. That's what the pug's gonna do.
Okay, for the people who are in the Discord server, First Phone Shop is available and is not safe for work.
How come I am not surprised?
Oh, my. The things that go on in Discord.
It's a shocking thing. I'm hesitant to even go there. Alrighty. On that note, good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Yay! Woohoo!
Night, everyone.
Night, everyone.